is Victor.
Yes? All right. Hopefully no one pulls a Jeffrey Tubin. Jim, you know what I'm talking about, right, Jim?
I do.
That's embarrassing.
Yeah. You read the New Yorker, you know who he is.
Yes.
Okay, we're almost there. All right, 7 o'clock. Let's call this new meeting to order. Nick, can you call the roll, please?
Okay, Bugera,
Here.
Cups,
Here.
Rondell,
Here.
Daika,
Here.
and Leo. And Mr. Leo.
John Leo, if you can.
I am here.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Can we also, before we do that, also we need to swear in, Nick needs to swear in Nancy and Al Daika. So Nick, if you want to take over for that.
Yes, can you guys hear me well?
Yep.
I can hear you.
All right. Councilman Daika and Councilwoman Rondell, I had sent you the verbiage earlier in the day to read, since I'm not there, to read in front of the council via phone. The swearing, if you could do that, I would appreciate it.
Are we doing this together?
Ladies before gentlemen.
Oh, okay, all right. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and Constitution of this state, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of City Council of the City of Harbor Springs, State of Michigan, according to the best of my abilities.
Very good. I announce you Councilwoman for the City of Harbor Springs. Councilman
Thank
Daika.
you.
My turn.
Yes, sir.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of this state, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of City Council of the City of Harbor Springs, State of Michigan, according to the best of my ability.
Perfect. Welcome aboard, council members. I appreciate your service, and we may carry on with the meeting.
Thank you.
All right. Before we get into the meeting, I'd like to welcome Nancy and Alan to the team. Happy to have you on board. And I'd also like to thank Cece Johnston and Mike Naturkis for their service over the last 2 years.
Support that.
Pardon?
I said I support that.
All right. On all the items tonight, we're going to need to do roll call votes on anything, if there's a resolution or anything. So that's something a little bit different. And I guess we'll get into it. We'll start out, we're gonna skip the bills. We do have to approve the minutes from the November 2nd meeting. Everyone have a chance to look the second revision over today?
With the revisions that Andy sent out later, I would make a motion to approve those.
All right. And a second. Take a roll call on that, please.
Cups,
Yes.
Fugera,
Yes.
Rondell,
Yes,
Daika,
Yes,
and Leo.
Yes.
Minutes are approved.
Perfect. Guess open up the floor, or open up the computer to any citizens' comment. If there's anyone out there that would like to zoom in and say something, this is your chance. Do we have anything on the YouTube or the telephone tonight?
That's negative.
Nothing on the YouTube, and Crick Whitaker is the only one attending on the phone, so,
We have 12 viewers.
and 12 viewers on YouTube.
All right. No one on YouTube's got anything to say, so I guess we can move right in. YouTube's got anything to say, so I guess we can move right in.
Whoever is watching YouTube at the same time as on Zoom, please mute that. Thank you.
All right. Well, I guess we can move right into the city manager section.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Welcome to the new council members. So this item A, the recognition for Ronald Fennick for his tree donation. Most of you are aware of this is a tree donation of over $15,000, I think, about that we accepted for Main Street, West Main Street tree plantings. Those plantings are going to happen next week. We would like to, the tree board, we have a plaque for people who donate $500 normally, but since this was such a large contribution, the tree board and staff thought it'd be nice just to have a formal recognition at council, thanking the individual for helping beautify our city and enhance our streetscape there. So all we did was really just create a little resolution saying that, well, we recognize their donation, and what they're doing will enhance our streetscape, and we appreciate that. So that's the resolution that you have in front of you.
All right. Any discussion or comments, or are we ready to move forward on the resolution?
it looked good to me.
Okay. I will make a motion that we move forward on this resolution, thanking the clinics for their donation.
I'll second.
All right.
Roll call.
Roll call, please.
Leo,
Yes.
Daika,
Yes,
Rondell,
yes,
Cups,
Yes.
and Fugera.
Yes.
Resolution carries.
Thank you. Item B, this is for recognition of Brandon Solberg for his assistance to the police department. I will let Chief Knight take over on this one, explaining what Brandon did for our community and for the police department.
Hopefully you can see me. I came here in person because we have a couple of recognitions tonight. I want to make sure that this got on YouTube and on the Zoom meeting. So before I start with Brandon Schulberg's, I just wanted to give kudos to Officer Johnson. It was too quick to put on the agenda, but this morning we had a 77-year-old walk away from Big Bluffs, and Officer Johnson, I was downstate, and Officer Johnson did an outstanding job. He called me, made me aware of it, and him and I came up with a game plan. We were able to locate this individual. It was very close. I just want to give a shout out to Officer Johnson. Now to move on to Brandon Schulberg. On July 16th of 2020 at 10:33, Officer Johnson and I were dispatched downtown, reference to an individual who found a stolen vehicle. And Brandon Solberg was a delivery person for a linen service, and he happened to see a 9 and 10 news clip and where this vehicle was described. He happened to notice it downtown and called 911 and allowed us to come down there, and we located the vehicle, and ultimately we apprehended the individual who was responsible for taking it. So with that being said, I'm giving Brandon Solberg this certificate of appreciation, whereas it says in recognition of the recipient's actions on July 16, 2020, which were directly responsible for recovering a stolen vehicle in downtown Harbor Spring. Brandon Solberg's attentiveness and willingness to intervene was the attributing factor to the recovery of a stolen vehicle out of Traverse City, and the Harbor Springs Police Department is grateful for his actions. Signed today's date. So Brandon stepped up to the plate and wasn't afraid to make that call to 911, and with the result of that, we were able to apprehend the subject who stole the car out of Traverse City. So I'm going to be mailing this to Brandon. He is aware that he's getting it, and I just want to thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kyle.
All right. Thanks, Kyle.
Real quick, I'd also like to thank Josh for his work this morning. We had a bunch of guys there. He was very professional and did a really nice job in the mess that we had there early this morning. So I support your support of him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll move on to the next, if it's all right, Mayor, we'll move on to
Item 3C.
item 3C, which is recognition of Yvonne. And just some notes about Yvonne. Yvonne started here in 1992. She's worked here with us for 28 years, and everybody in Harbor Springs knows who Yvonne is. She was an ambassador to our city. She was the face of the police department. While different people changed, she was always there, and that's greatly appreciated. I started 3 years ago, and she took me under her wing and told me what to do, provided me a lot of good guidance, and I'm grateful for that as well. Chief Branson and I spoke quite frequently about Yvonne, and she helped us both out. And to give kudos to Yvonne, some of you might not know this, but her father, Jerome, was the only officer that was killed in the Detroit riots in 1967. So Yvonne sort of followed in her father's footsteps in criminal justice, and I give her a lot of credit for that. He was the only police officer that was killed in those riots, so some people might not have been aware of that. So what I'm doing is our department, the city, this is a recognition, and I'll read this out. Harbor Springs Police Department, State of Michigan, Emmett County. This is certified that Administrative Assistant Yvonne Chauvet is hereby awarded a certificate of appreciation for her 28 years of dedicated service to the Harbor Springs Police Department in the city of Harbor Springs. Yvonne's commitment to serve as the administrative assistant for the police department and her willingness to assist all citizens and visitors to our city is greatly appreciated. Yvonne was a true ambassador for the police department and the city of Harbor Springs. She always placed the image and reputation of the police department foremost. Yvonne's devotion to her position attributed to the overall success of the police department. Thank you for a job well done. And when I say reputation and image, Yvonne was that person. Yvonne always came to me and said, Chief, I think that we need to do this because this is what's being said out there. And Yvonne was a true ambassador, and she always put our police department first, and I'm grateful for that. So congratulations to Yvonne for her retirement, and thank you, council, for your time.
I would like
Thank you,
to
Kyle.
second that. We appreciate Yvonne's work, and I'm glad Chief Knight is recognizing her for that. Any council member comments?
No, I had reached out to her privately, thanking her for all the help that she's given me over the years. So greatly appreciated.
Okay,
We'll miss her.
Yes, we will.
thank you.
Yeah.
Next item is 3D. So Kyle, this one is sticking to you. This is the digital video recording system quote selection. So if council remembers, for those of you that weren't here, at the end of last year, we placed in our budget about $100,000 for the purchase of a digital video recording system for the police department. This was necessary to comply with some of their requirements there for the police department. And so what we had asked Chief Knight to do is to continue looking for quotes and try to find the best quote he can. And he spent almost a whole year looking for quotes and negotiating, and finally deciding on what would be the best. As you see in your packet, there were 5 or 6, I believe, 5 different quotes. The 2 higher end ones were the ones that were really what we were looking for. So kind of the bottom 3 ones we kind of eliminated because they didn't provide the services and functionality that the police department needed. But whoever has the YouTube on, please mute. Thank you. And so I'll let Chief Knight take it over for describing what his reasoning was for picking the WatchGuard quote.
So this was a very difficult decision. I did a lot of researching into it, a lot of researching. I wanted to make sure this is a lot of money. And I want to make sure whatever system we chose was going to be the best for the police department, the city, and the users, and also for the prosecutor's office who reviews these videos. So after I got quotes from all of them, you received the sheet that I had, and it came down to Axon or WatchGuard. No offense to Digital LIG Tech or Custom, but the people I contacted to use those systems felt like that they could be better. And Axon currently is being used by Petoskey and the county and the tribe, and WatchGuard is being used by the state police. It was in my detailed night thing. The state police did an extensive background on both of them, and they chose WatchGuard. When I came down to it, actually WatchGuard gave us the initial quote, which was $101,728. I worked on that a little bit with a salesperson and also the installer, and we got it down to $57,974.48. I strongly feel that either Axon or WatchGuard would be a very good and reputable system we could use, but I recommend the second one, or the cheaper of the 2, which would be WatchGuard.
So what we need from a council after a discussion is a vote for either support of that, selecting that quote, or if the council wants to go a different direction.
And I have one more thing to add. One of the benefits of WatchGuard is they have what's called a record after the fact. So both the in-car camera and the body camera are always recording. Whenever anybody checks into service, they're always recording. So what that allows us to do is, let's say that one of the officers was driving downtown tonight, for example, and they would always be recording. Tomorrow we have a breaking and entering of a business, for example. So we could go down and we could see what cars, I could pick the time frames, we could see what cars, I can review that. Now there's a little bit of privacy issue there, people say, but I would only have the rights to that. The other thing, when I was talking to the state police about this, is they use it to handle citizen complaints. Let's say that one of you feels, or a citizen calls in and says that one of the officers was speeding down Lake Street. I could pull that footage from yesterday or 2 days ago to either confirm that or to exonerate that officer. And I felt that's one of the things that WatchGuard has that nobody else has. And the best thing about that is, with Axon, you would have to turn your camera on, whereas with WatchGuard, let's say that I'm walking downtown and somebody confronts me with a knife or a gun and I'm shooting somebody. If I don't have the time to turn my camera on, it's not recording. So whereas WatchGuard's always going to be recording. So that's why I felt that was the best system to go with.
Okay. Sounds like a good system. I think since the state police are using it, that's probably a good endorsement for us to go ahead and get it.
I agree.
I'd like to recognize once again, Chief Knight has gone above and beyond doing the research for the equipment that the department needs, and has been extremely conscientious in getting a good deal for the city. So well done, Chief.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great you could bring this in under budget like you did.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would make a motion to approve.
A second.
I have a motion by Leo, second by Rondell to accept the WatchGuard bid. And I'll do a roll call. Bugera.
Yes.
Cups.
Yes.
Rondell.
Yes.
Daika.
Yes.
And Leo.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you for your time for this. Let me do these 3 agenda items. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kyle.
All right, thank you. So the next item on the agenda is the Christmas tree lighting event that we normally hold after Thanksgiving. Bonnie Culp from the chamber is here, I believe, on Zoom to discuss what's going on. But the DDA had a discussion about this at Thursday's meeting, and there was a discussion about whether or not the city should go ahead or move forward with the tree lighting event on November 28th because of the rise in COVID cases here in the area, and whether we could do the event without potentially enhancing or making that spread worse than it is. So I bring this to council because normally how we do this is, staff makes a recommendation to council and council usually goes with the recommendation, but because this is such unusual times, I think council needs to, I just make a decision based on what we hear from Bonnie as well as Chief Knight here about what's possible, whether or not we should go forward with having that event or doing something different like a virtual event or a live event. So Bonnie, I don't know if you would like to speak, if you are still.
Yeah, I'm happy to. So I have not talked to Chief Knight today, so sorry, Kyle, this is going to be a little bit of a curveball. So we're thinking that unfortunately with the new restrictions, et cetera, that it wouldn't be wise to move forward in the same manner that I had been hoping for tree lighting. Part of that is our numbers that can gather outside are actually now a little bit smaller. But what we are thinking about, and I wanted to bring to you all for your thoughts and input, is what if we strongly encourage our public and our wonderful Harbor Springs individuals to get takeout and be at home on Saturday, the 28th, and we would still do a tree lighting. We would do it at 6 p.m., but we would discourage people from coming. And we would live stream it on Facebook. I haven't fleshed out exactly how we do that and how that would exactly look. I have an idea on someone in the community that I'd like to ask to actually plug the tree in officially. But the main point is we're thinking that it would be best to strongly discourage people from coming, but to watch it live. And what do you all think?
I personally think it's a good idea. I was gonna recommend that.
I concur. I think given where the numbers are and where we're headed, that is the wise thing to do.
I agree with that. I'm not even sure you should just discourage. I'm thinking it shouldn't even end, except that it will be someone will light it and they can view it online somehow.
I guess the big thing is we can't keep people from coming downtown.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I would want to, discuss with Kyle and how I do that pitch too. We'd still keep it at the same time rather than have it be sort of record it and then put it out there later. But to truly, ask people, and we could definitely, go get takeout, go, have a family meal, support your local restaurants that are not open and can't be open, and watch us and be nice and warm. Because you never know, the weather might be horrible. We might be the ones. But anyway, that's where we are.
Well, and somewhere, the people gotta hold themselves accountable, for such a thing, but I think you can only do so much. But to discourage the gathering, but still have it to somewhat keep things normal, keep a tradition going, and start the holiday season off in this crazy time, I think you're going down the right path.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea, and I guess if we could close Main Street in both directions for that night, that would give people that do come downtown more space so that they don't congregate, large groups. So that might be an option. open it up both directions.
I don't know if that, so my thoughts on that, Matt, are that with the new, so the governor and so the state health department just released new guidelines last night, and the outdoor gathering limits have drastically decreased, I believe.
Right.
Um,
I believe it's 20 per
25.
1,000 square feet, whereas
Yeah.
before it was 30 per 1,000, I believe.
yeah.
So,
Kyle, if you,
yeah, so this is Kyle. I'll need direction from council. I'll close it if you want it closed. I won't close it if you don't want it closed, but I want council's direction on, we'll close it. I have the manpower already scheduled, but I don't, and I also, Mayor, like, we could do Main Street and State Street, Bay to Third. It's totally up to you guys on how you want to handle this.
Do you think if we close the street that we're indirectly encouraging people to come? Whereas if we don't close, except maybe right in front of the tree, obviously.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. What if we went from State West and closed Main,
Yeah.
right? And then, so we still can have a setup so that, and again, I'm looking to all of you for guidance, and then I'll start to plan from there. Because I wouldn't, it'd be nice to have something visually nice for people. It won't be professionally done, but it'll be nice. So if Main Street were closed at State, heading west at least, again, that would leave space if people did come, because then they'd be going towards Zorn Park. But we can't have cars obviously going around the tree at that time.
Right.
well, if
I
there,
think, I agree that the closures should be limited to Main Street at State going west. I wouldn't close anything else.
No, that'd be something different, because it's always been the opposite way, so the lighting of Main Street, coincides with everything else, but
Right.
that would somewhat prevent it, and then you still have all the way going like back towards the park, so plenty of room to space out for those who want to venture down. That's not a bad idea.
who would be responsible then? Would it be the city officials or the chamber for monitoring how people are gathering, how many people are there, and if they're wearing face masks or not?
Well, somewhere along the line, people gotta hold themselves accountable. You can't force people to wear masks. I think the chamber officials and Kyle's crew, whoever may be on duty, can obviously, encourage it, but I'm sure there's still gonna be people who, if they're outside, are gonna choose not to wear them.
Kyle, do you
So-
know if the new executive order states that they have to wear face masks in outdoor events, gatherings?
I don't remember seeing it.
I'd have to,
Well, I would definitely make our message very clear that face masks are required even though people are outside, and that people who are not part of the same household need to social distance. That would definitely be part of our message, not just as we roll out what it is we're going to do, but even that evening. I have no problem on a PA system telling people that they need to put on masks and they need to social distance.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do. So,
Right.
we do the best we can to be proactive and go from there.
I agree. You can reiterate the message, but people need to take responsibilities for their actions.
So is this gonna be an official event of the city of Harbor Springs? I think that, no? Okay.
I don't think so. I think it will be, my personal opinion is that we strongly discourage, yes,
Yeah.
the tree will be lit. Yes, it will get lit on the 28th at 6 p.m., but
Right,
we do not encourage
yeah,
our general public to come attend.
yeah. I think that's wise in today's climate. I actually saw a few things today. I don't remember if it was on Facebook or somewhere else with people climate. And I am pretty vocal about complaining that the city of Harbor Springs was still supporting gatherings, even when it's, and I'm a little leery of that right now.
Oh, me too. The social media on it,
It's bad. Yeah.
no, and I mean, you know, the expectation that we're gonna flip the switch within, you know, less than 24 hours of announcements. But, definitely our, message will be very strong, and very clear. We don't encourage people to come.
Okay.
We
Yeah,
encourage them to
Is that
watch.
indoor or
Yeah.
outdoor?
And I'm not even sure I'd
Just
announce,
gathering, right?
I'm not gonna announce that Main Street's closed going west.
So Bonnie, and council, this is Sunday's,
I see
yesterday's
that.
order. So it says all persons participating in gatherings are required to wear a face mask, outdoor or indoor.
Right.
So that would be, Bonnie, that would be part of the messaging that you would include.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is Kyle, I have a quick question about blocking off the street. My only concern about doing state west, or excuse me, what Main West of state is that, for example, if people do come, which I think still may happen, when they park down, let's say at the marina, we're shuffling all these people that, even if they come to get takeout, they're gonna be walking down the sidewalks because the street's gonna have a boatload of cars in it. There's gonna be people up here for that weekend. I mean, regardless, because people will come up here for Thanksgiving weekend. So I'm just throwing that out there. I will take your direction. As I'm sitting here thinking about it, I'm thinking, well, maybe we go back to Spring Street or something and close it at Spring Street. So when they come down, at least it gives State Street more room for people not to walk down the sidewalk right next to each other. But I'm open to anything. I can close it I'll just close it at State. I'm at State in Maine. But my concern is that if people come downtown, that whether they buy food or whatever, we're gonna have a lot of people, traffic coming right to that, like where the farmer's market normally is, and having to turn right or left, and we're gonna have a lot of people walking down the sidewalks. That's just my thought.
Kyle, or Chief, I understand the concern, but the more we do and the more streets that we close, the more of an endorsement it is, and it looks like an actual event.
Yep, I'm good with that. All right.
So normally I'm guessing you would just close it off like you would the farmer's market, right there on the west side of the intersection and then back. I guess for this event, would you go all the way back to Traverse Street or would you still just block it off at the alleyway?
No, we'll go to Traverse because the trailer, and I don't know if the trailer is gonna be on the west side of the tree this year. Oh, no, there's not gonna be a trailer. There's not gonna be, I'm not sure if there's a trailer or not, but the activities are gonna take place on the west side of the tree, not on the east side of the tree. So therefore, we have a lot more room. So we'll block it off at Traverse and we'll block it off at State and Main.
I think that's the best we can do, and the chamber puts out their message and we move forward with it.
I agree.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
So you've done a great job planning this, so thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah, I agree. It's a difficult thing to navigate.
Yeah, it's hard this year.
Yeah. All right.
Hey Kyle, if it comes down to it and you need some assistance, give me a call. I'm sure I can gather a few guys to help you out.
Yeah, there'll be 4 of us on that night. My biggest concern is, hopefully people are respectful of the social distancing and the face masking, the mandatory face masking. That's not our ability to enforce that is not as clear as it may have seemed.
Right.
Just to let you know, if you remember what happened with some of the previous orders, the direction I've been given from insurance carriers, stuff like that, is to proceed cautiously with enforcing these executive orders. But we will be down there and we'll have a presence.
Thank you, Chief Knight. I would ask the mayor if you guys are ready to open it up to any public comment on Zoom or YouTube.
Yes, we can open up to public comment.
First on Zoom, I guess. Hearing none.
Anyone?
Any on YouTube?
YouTube, we have 11 watchers. Jody Eubank says no to the tree lighting. Dana Moeller, or Karen Strauss says can there be a clear guidance as to who can watch the tree lighting virtually? Dana Mulder also says this sounds like a city event. And that's all we got.
So I guess, Mayor, council, then the council, I probably should take a vote on how council would like to proceed with the event, whether it's as described or with any modifications, and I guess there could be a further discussion if necessary.
Can the council make a statement if we wanted to, that we did not, same thing that Bonnie's saying, that we do not encourage people to come and watch the tree lighting? We encourage them to watch it from home. I mean, would that help to satisfy some of the folks that are pretty upset with the city encouraging gathering of people? I'm not real savvy on that.
I think the council can.
I don't think we're encouraging the gathering of people. We're just trying to keep some normalcy going within the city here. So I think if Bonnie and her crew and Chief Knight go along with things and we publicly, announce what we want to, have go on here, I would make a motion that we approve this and move forward.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion to,
Any discussion on that?
Yeah, could we clarify what it is exactly that we're approving?
Yeah, what are we voting on?
I would vote that Bonnie and her crew, they move the announcement, the lighting, the festivity part of it to the west side. Chief Knight blocks the road at Main and State and at Traverse Street. The chamber, as well as the city, maybe on their website, puts out the notice that we discourage the public gathering. It can be viewed remotely, and we carry on with a Christmas tradition in Harbor Springs.
I think as long as I agree with you, John, that if we put on the website that we discourage people gathering, then we are, we're taking a stand that is saying that we aren't in support of people gathering downtown to watch.
Right.
Victor, would you like you and I work on what that message is so that it comes from, both the city and the chamber, and we agree on all the language? What do you think?
We can do that, but this point right now is for council discussion, so there's a motion on the table.
I modify my second, that's John's motion.
Okay. Any more discussion on this? We have a motion and a second.
No, I think the clarification helped. I think we know what we're doing now.
Thanks, thanks.
Okay.
okay,
Roll call.
I have a motion by Cup, second by Daika, to go ahead with the tree lighting ceremony with the main street to be closed at State. Council discouraging public gatherings, and they're encouraging residents to attend virtually. Bugera.
Yes.
Cups,
Yes.
Rondell,
Yes,
Daika,
Yes,
and Leo.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And Bonnie, yes, we can get together after you and Chief Knight, I guess, talk a little bit, and then we can work on some language for the website.
All restaurants will be.
Perfect. Thank you. We'll talk
Take
tomorrow.
only then, too.
Yeah, I think that messaging will be important to convey the right context for what we're doing.
And Chief Knight brought up a good point that all restaurants will be only open to takeout at that time, so it's
Right.
not like people can go out to eat afterwards.
No, it's not gonna be like normal years.
Yeah.
So, there might not be as
Far
many
from.
people downtown to begin with.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I guess we can move on. Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, council.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
all.
Bonnie.
Yeah.
thank you, Bonnie.
The next item is item 3F. This is adoption of the DDA bylaws. So I believe it was in September and October that the DDA was just updating and editing their bylaws to get them up to up to speed with how the current operations are, just to clean up any ambiguities and outdated stuff in there. I sent those bylaws to Jim Raymer to kind of get them to fit the mold of our other bylaws for other commissions. During that process, we noticed a couple changes that we added to the DDA bylaws that the DDA did not see as a whole board, and that change was primarily state law actually requires council to approve whoever the DDA selects as a director. Previously, we have not been doing that. We probably just missed it from state law. And you'll see that in Article 5 here. But really all this means is that the council doesn't get to decide who serves as a DDA director. They can't just pick someone. The DDA would vote on a director whenever they decide to hire a new director. Hopefully it's a while from now, but whenever they do decide to hire a director again, then they make that recommendation to council, and then council can just say yes or no. Council can't just put someone in that position. So it's just something to clarify. We didn't put this in there because, of any kind of nefarious. We just saw that it didn't match with state law, so we wanted to make sure that our bylaws match state law on this topic. I ran this by also Chair Breitner as well as Director DeMoose, just so they weren't taken aback by this change that was inserted in there. Other than that,
I did see this. This is Kathy. I did see this, and I'm fine with it.
thank you.
Yeah, no, I think that it's fine. The DDA should appoint or select their own director, and council gets final say on it.
Yep.
That makes sense.
I agree.
And I say all the other changes were just bringing it up to the new state standards.
Yeah, you see,
We did a lot of changes. This has not been done in about 6 years. You can see all the red ink that shows the changes that we have made. Changing for a number of reasons. We're better clarified as to who we are as a DDA, and we were not quite so clear of that in 2014. So there was a lot of work done on this. There were a couple of us that are actually bylaws nerds and quite enjoyed this. I know that's kind of odd, but we did enjoy it. And look at the sections that we did. And the information on the hiring of the director did come by Margot and I on Friday. And I did remind Victor that if the council should choose not to approve our director, you would probably at the next meeting be approving a lot of new DDA members as well.
I have just a basic question because I haven't read tons of different bylaws. And I would love it if someone could explain to me in the membership requirements where it says having an interest in. What does that exactly mean? Does it mean a financial interest or just, can somebody tell me what that means? It gets used a lot.
Jim Raymer, if you want to take that one.
Okay, so basically having an interest in it doesn't require a financial interest,
Okay.
but if you are an employee, for example, or you would have an interest in a business in the downtown district. So it's a little broader than a financial interest, but you do have to have some connection, if you will, to the business in the downtown district.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
And Jim is right. We're an oddball commission compared to the other city entities in that our membership has to have a connection to the purpose of the commission. Harbor Commission, Planning Commission, etc., can be citizens. By law, we are required to have a percentage of our members be truly connected to the downtown, either a business owner, a business worker, a property owner, or someone with an interest in the downtown.
Okay.
So we are a little bit different. No, actually, we're a lot different.
Okay. It was just a phrase that I wasn't sure what that actually meant. So thank you for the clarification. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Kathy.
I'm in green on page 5 that related to the banking relationship for the DDA. And the question was, can we remove this portion? What's the plan there?
That was left up to Nick, right? We don't have a separate banking arrangement. We work with city accounts. Is that still in there as an if? I thought we clarified that.
It's there in red with a question about, can we remove this portion in green? And
Yeah, that was my question.
If we're going to approve it, we need to know whether that's
Yeah,
going
we
to
do.
stay or be removed.
It's on page 5, right, John?
Right,
Are
page
you-
5 of the
The edited one?
bylaws.
We did not include that in the statement. So the funds of the authority would have to be invested pursuant to the city's direction.
Okay. Okay, so that made sense to me that be removed. It seemed like an unnecessary involvement of the DDA, given that everything is managed through the city anyway.
Yes.
And then I had a question about the audit in section 2, also on page 5. It says that, an audit of the funds of the authority shall be conducted by an independent certified public accountant, et cetera, et cetera. Is this a requirement that is separate from the audits that the city already goes through?
If I may,
Nick, yeah, Nick.
Councilman Leo, I will
Yeah.
answer that question. Yes. The DDA, the Downtown Development Authority, and TSB is subject to an audit. It's called a component unit of the city of Harbor Springs. And when we go through our audit annually, they are audited separately.
Okay.
They're reported separately. If you look in the financials and the audit report, they don't call it a component unit. They operate independently of the city. So yes, they are audited every year annually.
Okay. Well, that answers my question. Thank you. So with those two clarifications, I think it's a great update, and I would make a motion to approve.
Do we have any comments on YouTube, Andy?
None.
Any comments on Zoom?
Nobody else cares about bylaws but us nerds.
Well,
If I
a
can
lot of
make
work
a
went into it,
quick
Kathy, and
comment,
nice
and-
job bringing things up to date.
Thank you.
right.
That was really a lot of fun.
Nick, Clerk Whitaker would like to make a comment. Yes, go ahead, Nick.
As I've been here for 4 years now, I have seen some good changes in this DDA. We are starting to make some money and have different projects. I mean, it's been a long, drawn-out process, but I would like to give Margot DeMoose credit where she's due, and even Rachel before her. I mean, we've been battling every front with the county and everywhere else, but we're getting there. So stay the course. And that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll back that with Nick. Agreed that there's a lot of work's went into this, and it's coming around, so.
Thank you.
Okay, yep, so John, Leo, I believe did you put a motion?
We have one motion by Mr. Leo.
Yes.
We need a second to accept the.
I'll
I'll
second.
second. Yeah.
Oh.
That's fine.
You beat me.
That's okay.
So I have a motion by Leo, second by, is that,
Cups.
Mr. Rondell?
Either way. it's
It
fine.
doesn't matter.
Okay,
Doesn't matter.
to accept the bylaws, as submitted. Roll call. Bugera,
Yes.
Coates,
Yes.
Rondell,
Yes,
Daika,
Yes.
and Leo.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks, everyone. That one's off our list.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Kathy.
Kathy.
Well done, Kathy.
Okay, moving on to item 3G. This is about the short-term rental fee resolution and criteria discussion. Not last council meeting, but the meeting prior to that, Assessor, Zoning Administrator Jeff Grimm and I, we came to council to just give a little update on the short-term rental situation. And we then discussed that we were going to be contracting with an online company that will monitor short-term rentals in the area and help us with monitoring, compliance, and enforcement. And that would bring some extra costs. So the first part of that discussion was we would come back to council with a resolution to increase the fee of the current short-term rental fee, which is $100. And we decided to increase it to $250 in order to cover the costs of both the company we'd be contracting with as well as staff time and resources. And I gave a little breakdown of how we came to that cost of $250 for council to review. The second thing we are coming to council with is just to have a discussion on potential criteria that we could add to our ordinance on short-term rentals to kind of make it, give us a little more bite for when we're deciding to approve an application or reject an application or follow up on enforcement issues. These kind of criteria will help staff potentially maybe weed out bad actors or, probably nip some problems in the bud before they start. So I guess first, I think, Mayor, we should start with just with the resolution and seeing if that resolution is good, and then passing that resolution if the council wants to pass that resolution, and then move on to the discussion on criteria, and if council would like to pursue some amendments to our ordinance on that.
All right, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think the new fee, $250 covers any of the expense of the Harami or whatever it's called. Nice to have them monitor it. Make sure that everyone's in compliance.
I would agree. My only thing is just, as long as we're sure the 250 does cover all costs, so we're not going backwards on it.
Yeah, so that's I broke that down there, and John. So if we had a minimum of 24 licensees or applicants apply, then we would cover Harmari for the year, at least the first year. The second year, their cost goes down to $4,700. So we'd more than cover it if we have 24 licensed applications. Harmari, when they did the research for us last time, they said there's 70 or more potentially units being used as short-term rentals. So I took an average of 50. So if we had, let's say, we don't get the bottom low 24, but we don't capture 75. Let's say we capture 50 in a given year. That would definitely more than make up for both staff time as well as the cost of Harmari. It's just basically a numbers game. If we have another COVID year and only 7 people apply, I mean, we're down the money that year. But you can't charge someone $1,000 for a fee because no one else is applying for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, obviously you've done a remarkable job with your research. So, I mean, if this is something you're comfortable with, then I support it.
I'm fairly comfortable with that. I just, again, with COVID, will we have 25 units be used? Probably. I mean, by last spring, remember, we had a moratorium on short-term rentals.
Right.
So that kind of put a dent in our process. However, by this fall, when Harmari came back to us, they showed 70 units in early October being used as short-term rentals. So fairly confident that those numbers will hold up.
Okay, and by doing this, correct me if I'm wrong, we'll be able to identify the ones that are not current licensees and be able to go to them and make them become compliant?
That's correct. We'd actually be able to identify every single unit in the city limits that is advertising as being operated as a short-term rental unit. And then we would send out letters letting them know that we have an application that they have to fill out and a fee for them to fill out and criteria that they must meet. So yeah, that's basically what they're doing for us.
Perfect. Okay.
Well, based on that, I would make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
That resolution is right there on the screen.
Yep. No, it makes a lot of sense. And again, you did a very detailed analysis. So thank you for the diligence.
You're welcome.
Okay, motion by Leo, second by Cups, supporting the resolution, raising the, fees for short-term rentals from $100 to $250. Bugera,
Yes.
Cups,
Yes.
Rondell,
Yes,
Daika,
Yes.
and Leo.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. So yeah, the second part of this discussion was then, we have a current ordinance, which is also attached to the packet. And what Mr. Grimm, Jeff Grimm and I did was we looked to 5 or 6 different municipalities in Michigan that have short-term rental ordinances. And we looked at the different types of criteria that they use for evaluating an application. And there's a good range between them, and some criteria that some municipalities had necessarily wouldn't fit with us, but some seem to work pretty well. So I kind of compiled some that work well and some that might work well, and just to throw them out there to see if council thinks these are reasonable and necessary requests of applicants for applying for this license. So what we noticed is several municipalities require that that the applicant should be able to produce a deed that they own the property. I mean, Jeff and I didn't really think that we needed to have someone show us that they own the deed. If we find out that they didn't own the property, I mean, they're in more trouble than just, applying for a license. So that wasn't really a huge concern of ours. But there were other ones like each bedroom has a smoke detector, and that there's a carbon monoxide detector on each floor. That there's documentation indicating that the owner has contracted with a trash and recycling company, and that they would indicate which days that those are being picked up. Our current ordinance says that they have to have it, but they don't necessarily have to provide that documentation. So having that documentation could help us. The city should provide a license number that the applicant must display when advertising online or at the physical location. So if anyone sees that license number, they can just say, I saw this license was issued, is it real or not, et cetera. Each bedroom shall have 2 legal egresses, so such as a door and a fire escape. Acknowledgement from the owners that they will provide copies of certain city ordinances to all the renters, and those ordinances that we find particularly needing in this case are like noise ordinances, nuisance ordinances, and of those types, parking ordinances, for example. Prohibition of signage on the property that advertises a unit as a short-term rental. This was I think probably an important one, is that no special events are allowed, such as someone rents it out and wants to have a wedding there. We want to prevent these short-term rentals from being used as commercial venues in the traditional sense of, all right, I'm going to rent out this house for a couple weeks, then on Saturday we're going to throw my kid a birthday party and invite 30 people, 40 people. That's not the intent of a short-term rental. It's supposed to be more like a bed and breakfast type. And the second thing is ensuring that the vehicles of rental occupants are to be parked on premises from where they're renting it. On the premises of the rental property, and in proper, like not parked all over, like on the grass where there's no parking allowed. So those were some of the criteria that we saw in other municipalities that we think could be helpful. Some of these could be simply when they're putting the ordinance, when someone's applying for it, there could be like a sheet with a checkbox is saying, all right, check that you have a proper documentation showing you own the house, et cetera. But other things like we could require documentation like about trash removal and other things like that. So I don't know, Jeff, if you are on Zoom, I believe, if you want to add anything to this discussion before we turn it over to council.
Hi, yeah, no, we had a good discussion about this the other day. I like what you've drafted up here in the notes here for council. The only thing I was going to add was the idea with some of these of having, like you mentioned, a checkbox thing, but, basically form it as I acknowledge to the applicant and, make them sign and potentially notarize that page that they are acknowledging these things, especially with things that are typical complaints that we get, such as garbage and parking. So that there's even a little bit more clarity there of how important that is to the city that they maintain these things so that it's not a problem.
Thank you, Jeff. So Mayor and Council, I'll open it up to you all for discussion to see which ones of these you think are appropriate to include in the ordinance. And perhaps then we can reach out to Jim Raymer to find a way to put them in there.
Right. I say a lot of these, are insurance requirements, as far as smokers and carbon monoxide stuff. So I don't know if that would really be necessary. The trash and recycling is a good idea. The license number, I've seen that on, on the online, so that's good. The egress, that's like an insurance thing. You can't get insurance if you don't have the egress. Yeah, signage, you don't like that. Yeah, no, I think they look good.
Matt, when you're saying the insurance, are you assuming that these folks are insuring their houses rentals? I mean, is that what you're assuming?
Yeah, I'm assuming that, I would assume that they would be forthcoming with their insurance companies, that they're using them as rental properties. But yeah, in fact, that might, you might be able to eliminate a couple of those, and I don't know if there's some verbiage you could put in there that they have insurance that covers them for short-term
For
rentals.
rentals?
We can look into that.
What about a local contact for fire, police?
That is something that we all already have.
You do, okay.
Yeah, we have a local agent, we call it. It doesn't have to be an actual agency. It could be a neighbor or somebody. But the idea is that if we have any type of a problem with the property, whether it's a complaint or just something that we found, that local agent is somebody that can respond to the issue, be on site within an hour to help us address and take care of a problem.
So these criteria are in addition to what we already have.
Correct.
Yes.
I personally, I like the idea that they would all be spelled out, even if they are things that you would need to get insurance. I like the idea that they would attest to the fact that they are complying with those conditions. Now, the intent is to have them attest to it, but we're not talking about any type of inspection.
That's correct. I think what this would allow us to do is, if they attest to it and then we get a complaint, for example, that they don't have smoke, then we can take action that way. But that's just my, some of them though, we could require documentation such as the problematic ones, like the trash, say like have them tell us what is their pickup day. So that way, if they tell us their pickup day is on Tuesday and they have their garbage cans out on Sunday, we can say, hey, we know your pickup day is on Tuesday. Why is your garbage out on Sunday? And we can potentially, get them to comply that way.
Yeah, I would leave the egress and smoke detector stuff in there, simply because I was on a call earlier today out in Birchwood where this gentleman just bought a house on Thursday, no smoke detectors, and bedroom in the basement with a small window, that only a child could get through. So taking some things for granted would definitely get us in trouble.
I just have a couple of thoughts on these when I was reading them. I think your one about smoke detectors, we have to watch the wording. It's actually worded as in every room, in each room.
That's current code.
Every single room in the house
Yes.
has to have a smoke detector? Every bedroom?
Every
Okay,
bedroom.
then we need to put bedroom in there, is what I'm saying, I guess, because it just says every room in the house.
Okay, so yeah.
I also had, and I think, am I right? In each room.
Yep. I meant to say in each room that was being rented out, but yes, that's correct. Bedroom, to clarify.
I mean, if we're renting a whole house, they don't have to have them in the bathrooms, the bedrooms, I think we just have to be careful not to put rules in place that we are not willing to enforce.
On the smoke detector, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
smoke detector thing, if we just simply put, to code, then that would cover everything.
So I think we just have to be careful of the wording. And is a fire, John Cops, you know this a whole lot better. Is a fire escape window actually an egress window? Is that the same?
Yes.
Okay, okay. So that
A
is,
second, they get different if it's like on a second story or different things like that, but, for the most part, they are the same.
okay. And the special events one, I'm looking at the list I made, when we say only the number of people that are renting, so you have a family of 3 that's renting a house for a week and they want to have their friends over for dinner who have 4 people in their family. By this wording, we're saying that they can't do that. I understand your intent is to say no big weddings or, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but the way it's worded, if someone was renting a house and there were 4 people in their family and they invited, 5 other people over for dinner, then they would be not in compliance with this. So I think.
Oh, sorry, Nancy.
Go ahead.
I think, it's Jeff again here. I think what we will probably do with this is maybe put a participant level on there. Obviously, if somebody is if there's 3 or 4 people renting a home and they want to have a dinner party inside with 3 or 4 people, that's inside the home and it's not necessarily affecting, the neighbors too much other than possibly parking. But it might be appropriate for us to put some type of a participant level on an event, such as, let's say, no more than 10 or 15 or something like that, so that it doesn't turn into a situation where somebody rents out a home in Harbor Springs because they think it's quaint, but it has a large backyard, and then they want to have some type of a large family gathering or family reunion, or potentially even bypassing and renting a home to do a wedding in it. And I think the idea was to curtail that activity or those types of activities.
And is it, again, I have to go to the legal experts on this. Is it okay for us to make rules for our short-term rentals that are stricter than what we do for private individuals? Like parking on the street or parties in the backyard? Is it okay for us to do that?
I believe to a certain extent. Jim can probably answer this more clearly than I can, but my understanding as it is right now is that rental of a property for short-term rental is considered a commercial use of property. And so when you're doing that, it changes the activity and the use that's going on at that property. And so I do think it's appropriate to a limited extent for us to have more restrictions in place than what would be on a normal residential property that a property owner stays at and occupies full time.
Well, then how can they do it, Jeff, if it then becomes a commercial usage in a residential area? I mean, go ahead, I'm being picky, but I just don't want us to put rules in place that maybe we can't do. I just don't know. Jim,
Well, maybe I could respond to that.
Yeah.
I think Jeff has kind of hit on a key point, is that this type of use, a more intensive use of a parcel of residential property than would otherwise be permitted. And so given the higher level of intensity, at least what I have seen is that it is deemed to be valid to impose restrictions that would constrain the individual from making the intense use a burden on adjacent properties. So a long way of saying, yes, I think it's legal to put these restrictions on, even though we don't put them on adjacent properties.
Okay, thank you.
I understand the intent of this, and I certainly agree, but if you're talking about putting in a specific number of guests, how do you do that given the variability of size of different rental units? The 2-bedroom would have more people in it than a 4-bedroom. So I'm confused as to how you would go about deciding what specific limitation you'd put on.
Well, what you can do, John, is other municipalities have required that with each application or with each license, that the applicant puts how many bedrooms they have and then there's a limit of how many people you're allowed per bedroom to rent out a
Right.
property. And then you, based off those figures, then you would have at least an approximate number of how many people are allowed to be at that property when it's used as a rental, if you put that limit on there. That's how other municipalities do it.
Okay, well, that makes sense. So it would be indexed to the number of bedrooms and therefore the number of guests.
Yep, and they would have to attest to that and when they do the
Yeah.
acknowledgement, and then, it would be a follow. I mean, what I imagine would happen here is it's not that if, there's a house with 6 bedrooms and there's, 15 people outside instead of 12, that we'd go there and enforce something. But I imagine if we see, we'll first get the complaint of too much noise or parking that's out of control. And that's probably what would lead to that investigation into how.
I agree.
Yeah.
Now, the clarification helps. One comment I did have, though, getting back to trash and recycling, is that in a short-term rental environment, if the way that the short-term rental is managed is that they are instructed to leave the garbage or the recycling by the curb, and they're on and off cycle, it could be there for up to a week before it's picked up.
We have language in our license agreement that says that they can't do that. So that would be the responsibility of that local agent or
Right.
some other person with the property to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Okay, so as long as that is detailed along with all of the other information to be handed to the renter,
Mhm.
then that's accounted for.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay,
Another thing in it, and I just noticed it's not in Victor's memo here. I like the idea of having a list of not necessarily new ordinances that we would address specifically for short-term rentals, but a list of typical ordinances that apply to everyone that the short-term rental occupants need to be aware of. And I think some other organizations do this, such as what our rules and regulations for fireworks are, noise, some of those things, and requiring the property owner to post those in a prominent location so that the property renters are aware of them.
I think that is included. It's on the second
It is.
page.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I missed it.
Second item, acknowledgement that the owners will provide copies of certain city ordinances.
Look at that, it is. My apologies.
No, and I agree. I think it's important that it be highlighted.
On the no special events allowed, parties are limited to the number of occupants. Could you change the verbiage to, groups or twice the occupancy of the house? So say it's a 3-bedroom, they have 6 people, they could legally have 12 people there for an event or a dinner party or whatever.
We can do as ever council decides. So that's why this is up for discussion. If you think, if to address kind of Nancy's concern there of that, they have 2 people over, friends in town. I mean, yeah, we don't want to have to go have Kyle arrest them for that. Just joking, he would never do that. But yeah, but it's a valid point. We can put whatever number and limit you guys want to see on that. Yeah, we can definitely do that.
Kind of like that idea from Matt. It kind of allows for a little leniency, but yet still gives us something to enforce, or Kyle, something to enforce.
Right.
Well, as Victor pointed out, we're gonna get the call about the noise or the disruption first, so it does give them some teeth. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, if I was to rent a house in town somewhere and just invite my family to a picnic, it would really exceed.
Yeah, mine too. Mine too.
I think we need to work on that language a little bit. And then I have a question getting back to the fire alarms, or smoke alarms. Can we make the homeowner bring their, if their house is so old that they didn't need smoke alarm, can we tell them that, you know, even though you're grandfathered in technically by law, that you have to install them now as a rental? I mean, I don't mind doing that as a condition of getting a license to do this. But it just seems to me that some older homes may not have smoke alarms.
Right, I don't think, Al, right now that we can, without a particular, what I'll call a fire code within the city. But I'm working, gonna be working with Jim and Victor to get a generic code possibly in place sometime after the first of the year, in which case we would be able to then, have some kind of enforcement for that. Whether it be me or Kyle, or the county, even if we had to go that route, we would then have something, to back us.
So John,
You're
what,
gonna run into the same problem with the egress windows in the older homes, as you well know. You know, a lot of the older homes don't have windows in them that are egress. So we'll have to, but again, if someone has rental or short-term rental insurance, that might be included in some of those insurance policies, I'm not sure, for short-term rent.
Only if they only come up, if I get a call for the insurance company to go do an inspection.
Okay. So that just might be kind of a hard one to enforce with all our older homes in town. I don't know.
Well, and without a particular code to
Right.
back the enforcement.
Right.
Which hopefully within the next 6 months or so, we might be able to change that. But right now, I don't know, Jim, am I wrong in that?
No, I think, listening to what Al and you are saying, maybe rather than requiring a smoke detector at each room to be rented out and a carbon monoxide detector in each floor, we simply state that smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors must be provided in accordance with code. So therefore, I mean, if you have an older home that is not required to maintain those, then you're not imposing an unreasonable restriction on them.
and that way also, if our code changes, we don't have to revise this ordinance as well.
Right. One thing that I heard you talking about, which is kind of interesting, is requiring the short-term rental applicant to demonstrate that he or she has short-term rental insurance. I don't know what that looks like, what kind of endorsement there is to a policy to allow that. Maybe there is such a thing. And maybe we could figure that out if that is something that a property owner or could show the city. Maybe that would be a good thing to have on this list of requirements.
You know, we've had rental insurance because we have long-term rentals, and we have a different policy on our rentals as opposed to our homeowners policy. But I don't remember them ever asking me if I rent short-term or long-term. I could be wrong, but I don't remember that question.
So maybe Jeff or Jeff negate that and let us know if there is.
I can definitely look into that.
That'd be great.
Yeah, and a problem we'll probably run into with some of these houses at least is some of them are only rented out, 1 week of the year, and so who knows if they know that if they need insurance, that they're actually getting insurance. And how are we going to police that? So I think Jeff looking into that some more. And what we'll do, council, ultimately is bring back all these changes in ordinance format for another discussion for you guys to discuss that language as well. So this is great for us getting feedback so we can put it into a format.
No, I think this is great. A lot of good work into this.
Yeah.
It's definitely going in the right direction.
Thank you.
Well, and it's addressing all of the issues that I'm aware of that have come up with the short-term rental so far.
Is there any comments on YouTube? No comments.
I think we should address density. Some blocks, like 3rd Street, there's 8 or 10 short-term rentals in a 1 block section. is it worth limiting, the amount, one block, can't have, two short-term rentals next to each other or within 1,000 feet of each other?
That
Jeff,
was discussed quite a bit at a seminar that I went to 2 years ago down in Traverse City. And the consensus seemed to be, I know that a lot of communities this last year have started trying to implement that. Like Charlevoix, for instance, has put a limitation on the number of units that can be used as short-term rentals. At this seminar that I went to, the concern there from many communities and rental agencies was there can be a potentially high number of property owners that say, we're gonna do it anyway, and we'll just face the costs because the profit we can make still exceeds. And it becomes an enforcement, almost an enforcement nightmare. So I think we could keep that in mind as something to look at in the future, but see if we can address the issue by, getting as much compliance with properties as we can before going to that step, would be my initial thought.
All right.
well, and I would like to add to that, thanks, Jeff, Mayor, is that maybe after, like Jeff said, after this first year or two, we see actually how many rentals we do have. I mean, the Harmari said there were 70 in October, but let's see a summer season and see if we have 100 or 150. And that way we can get a better sense of, is it really a problem or is it not a problem? Are they 1 month rentals? Are they 2 week rentals? Are they 2 day rentals? I think we all have ideas. Then this will also let us know where in the city they're being rented out at. So maybe if we find a street where 80% of the houses are being used as short-term rentals, then we can use that as a means to say, all right, we need to figure out limiting rentals in certain areas. But maybe we might find out that it's not as big of a problem as we thought. But we don't know the answer yet. So I'd say let's wait for a year or two to see what kind of compliance we get and actually see how many rentals are being used in which locations.
Another thing to look at too, Matt, is why are there so many rentals? I obviously know people make money with short-term rentals, but rather than trying to tell people they can't do short-term rentals, looking at what we might be able to do to encourage people to actually live in their houses instead of rent them out. That's a whole nother way to look at the problem, but I think it's something we should think about. And again, we need to come back to affordable housing and lots of other things, but I think that's another way to look at why do we have so many short-term rentals? And there's a lot of reasons for that. So that's another big discussion, but.
All right.
Lots of good work in this, so lots of good thoughts.
Any more comment from the council?
No, I'm good.
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 Anything on the Zoom, YouTube, or phone?
None on YouTube.
Nothing on YouTube. I don't see anyone commenting on Zoom or the phone. All right, so Mayor, no action is needed on this right now. What we'll do is we'll take your thoughts, Jeff and I and Jim Raymer, and we'll, in the next, couple, probably won't be the next meeting, but, a couple meetings from now, get us some draft ordinance to the council for approval.
Very good.
Great, thank you. Moving on to the next topic, which is 3H, is the MERS rate adoption. So MERS is our Municipal Employees Retirement System. Each year, they set the rate for which the employee must contribute to the city, as then they calculate, after council approves the employee's rate, then they'll calculate what the city's rate is. So this is done by MERS. We don't do this calculation in-house. It's just given to us and council either approves it or not. But last year for 2020, the employee contribution rate for the pension was 10.51%, and the MERS is recommending that it goes up to 11.57%. Nick, do you want anything to add to that?
I do, just briefly. our rates are set by an actuarial, which I've tried to figure out how those rates are set, and I'm not successful, but I have reviewed them. So they set the employee rates, and what is trying to be accomplished here is through contract and union contract, is that everybody's got skin in the game. So we're half and half. So by going from 10.51% of employees to 11.5%, will end up putting us at the same rate as the city input, so that we're half and half. If there's any questions, I will be more than happy to answer them.
Mayor, council?
Yeah, so this is pretty standard.
Yes, we do it every year. We do it every single year, but you know, it's a little over a 1% increase, and that's fine, but it is what it is. I mean, people retire, and the actuarial changes as we have more retirees or less retirees, and that rate will go up.
We're kind of stuck because it's in the union, correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
So I would make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any discussion? We're done.
Any discussion on that motion? Or are we ready for a roll call? Looks like we're ready for a roll call.
Okay, motion by Leo, second by Rondell to approve the resolution and the rate adoption for the MERS employee contribution to 11.57%. Bugera,
Yes.
Cups,
Yes.
Rondell,
Yes,
Daika,
Yes.
and Leo.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Before we go on to item 3I, which is a closed session, I'll go quickly to my manager's report, and then we can move on to boards and commissions. Is that okay, Mayor?
That is fine.
Okay. City manager's update. An update that I would like to include that's not in this is that we did have an employee here at City Hall test positive for COVID. So what we had is all of our employees that work at City Hall have gone and got tested. None of us other employees are experiencing any symptoms. We've been very, in the past few weeks especially, masking up and practicing social distancing. So I'm not worried that anyone at City Hall have caught it, but we're still trying to be as precautious as possible. So we all went and got tested. Those of us that are required to self-monitor and self-isolate or self-quarantine are doing that. We do have some other employees that were out before this due to family members either potentially having it or being tested positive. So we are, doing our best to function, but right now we just have to close. I don't want our employees gathering here if there's a potential that some of us may have it. So we're doing remote working. All of our employees are able to work remotely, at least from City Hall. We will have people coming in. People will be answering phones. We have phones being diverted to people's cell phones from the city phones to their cell phones and able to answer them. We have, duties assigned. We won't have more than one or two people that we know that are experiencing any symptoms at City Hall, just to cover some basic things here. But other than that, for this week, we should be pretty much not just close to the public, but pretty minimal presence here at City Hall. Starting next week, it is a short week anyway with Thanksgiving. We all have received notice that it could take anywhere from 4 to 7 days to get our test results back. So we may not be open until, Nancy, there was they wouldn't give the rapid test to anyone who's not experiencing symptoms. So,
okay.
yeah, that happens.
It's just so silly. Yeah, it's such a crazy system, but okay, you're doing the best you can. I mean, that's all you can do.
Yeah, we have, so we're doing our best to work remotely, and next week we should have one or two that are coming back from quarantining or self-isolating with a short week going on. But, so we're plugging along here, trying to do the best we can to make sure we don't make this spread any worse. But yeah, I just wanted to let council know that, we are the situation.
If I may, Mr. City Manager,
Yes.
this is Nick, City Clerk, and I'm going to try to provide people with venison if they would like it. They want to take advantage of this time off, and see if I can harvest a deer.
Good luck.
My freezer's open, so get two.
Yeah.
Inappropriate, I know, but that's how I am.
Well, you guys all just need to try and stay as healthy as you can. That's just where we are right now, so.
This is not unfamiliar territory. As you guys know, we were forced to shut down in April anyway and work remotely. So we were pretty successful then. We will do a good job as well now.
You're doing the right thing, Victor.
Yeah, yeah.
The other updates that we have for the city manager report, because we were down a few DPW employees over the past couple of weeks, we are extending leaf pickup through Friday of this week. So we're just asking the public to still be patient with us as, we're all rolling through this coronavirus pandemic, just like everyone else, and trying to do our best to stay safe while getting our jobs done. Our electric department's new bucket truck has arrived, so that's $216,000 well spent, I think. The DPW and electric will tell you it is. This is a little old. City Hall is closed to the public for foreseeable future, but that is still the case. We are closed for foreseeable future. We want to wait to see if we get a drop in cases. On Saturday, there was 33 cases in Emmett County, Sunday 4. Today, they didn't release the numbers because they're still tallying them up, and that's pretty typical. On Mondays after big weekends, Sundays, they usually don't report a whole lot of numbers because there's less testing done on a Sunday. Then Monday, more people come in for testing and you usually see higher numbers. That's been the trend the past few weeks. So we will know more tomorrow about what the latest numbers for positive tests is. For the public, just to reiterate, we are moving back to remote meetings for the public until further notice. And I still think we encourage council members to remote Zoom in. I think this has been pretty successful so far, this meeting. So I think if we can encourage remote meetings for at least the height of this part, then I think that'll be good for the community to show that we are doing our best to prevent the spread. As well as the city's proposed 2021 budget and the capital improvements plan, we will be distributing those to the council on December 7th. We won't be discussing them or reviewing them. But on December 14th, we will have the public hearing for the budget. And then we'll also discuss and capital improvements plan at that meeting as well. And then December 21st, we will come back to council for approval of the budget. So the idea is to get the capital improvements plan approved before the budget, so that way we know what final numbers are going to be in for 2021. The Planning Commission will be reviewing the capital improvements plan this Thursday. That meeting will be remote. Those are a few of the updates. Just again, some stats that we keep track of. So interesting things you see as the month changes, the different types of people's most downloaded documents, and you can see, in November, leaf brush pickup is the biggest concern. So those are little things that we keep track of, just so we know what people are clicking on and what they're not clicking on, if they can find what they need as well. Going down to boards and commissions, the DDA did meet on November 12th. There was a pretty short meeting. They just had some committee updates as well as some discussion, as you heard, about the Christmas tree lighting event, as well as some not budgetary discussion, but discussion about tree grates and potentially coming back to council for a discussion on that project eventually. Some meetings of note: we've done 2 tours of the city buildings for the solar project. People are very interested in applying for that RFP. We've already received one quote in, one bid, I should say. We did a little tour of the little Harbor Club facilities because they're looking to make some improvements. So just wanted to check out what types of improvements they were looking at doing. Some MPPA meetings. We did get a student who's doing her master's degree interview me for our geese approach to geese feces mitigation. So seems to be like 2020's topic of the year for Harbor Springs is geese. So that was cool. Yeah, so that's really all I got, unless council members have any other questions about updates these past 2 weeks.
I've seen the city bucket truck. I think they did a good job on that.
Absolutely.
And it was probably well needed, for what they've got going on. So, and I know, the city crew's been shorthanded, and I even heard Lucas had to get out and actually do some leaf work. So, the city crew's been doing a great job, keeping the city picked up. So hats off to them.
Yeah, Lucas had to do it because Andy and Nick said they wouldn't, so.
Right? So,
No, thank you.
so
John.
yeah, no, hats off to everybody. It's crazy times, so the crew's doing a good job.
I believe we have a comment on YouTube.
Yes, Dana Mulder also would like to commend Lucas Vanderzee and all of the DPW guys for their excellent leaf and brush removal. She's saying very well done, fantastic city service, and thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Any other comments? Nope. Okay. All right, so that is all I have, Mayor, for the manager's report. We can move on to the boards and commissions, and I wrote on the agenda the positions that are open. So, Mayor, if you want to take it over.
All right, well, we've got a couple of spots, or a bunch of spots. The Planning Commission, Bill Mulder would like to move on to the Planning Commission. And we received an application from Emily Dubay, who is also interested in being on the Planning Commission. So I'd like to appoint those two. And then the Tree Advisory Board, we need, I believe, a city council representative. And I spoke to Nancy about that today, and she would be willing to go on the Tree Advisory Board. And also, I guess the council representative on the Planning Commission, Al, you volunteered to be on the Planning Commission, and you're involved in it already, so I'd like to keep you where you're at, if you're agreeable with that. So any discussion on my appointees, or?
I support.
Yeah, sounds good.
I agree.
Nick, do we need to do these separate votes, or can we do them at once? All at once?
Yes, I think that we should probably appoint them separately with a roll call vote.
Okay. All right, well, I'll make a motion that we appoint Al Daika as our city council representative to the Planning Commission.
Oh, second.
Bugera,
Yes.
Cups,
Yes.
Rondell,
Yes,
Daika,
Yes.
and Leo.
Yes.
That appointment, motion carries.
Correct. And I'll make a motion that we make Nancy Rondell our city council representative for the Tree Advisory Board.
I'll second.
Leo,
Yes.
Daika,
Yes.
Cups,
Yes.
Rondell,
yes,
and Bugera.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. And I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Bill Mulder to the Planning Commission.
I'll second it.
Bugera,
Yes.
Cups,
Yes.
Rondell,
Yes.
Daika,
Yes.
and Leo.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And I'll make a motion that we appoint Emily Dubay to the planning commission.
I'll second that.
Mr. Daika,
Yes.
Leo,
Yes.
Rondell,
Yes.
Bugera,
Yes.
and Cups.
Yes.
And motion carries.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
And I guess we'll do, new and old business real quick. Anything?
I have a question. While we're in exile here, how do we approve the bills?
Oh, Nick, can you explain that one?
Yes, that is a good question. Al, this is Councilman Daika. We will approve both sets of bills next week, or next meeting rather, and go from there. Guys, it's a new situation, so we will put both sets of bills in front of the new council members next council meeting.
Okay, I was just curious.
Nope, that's,
What if they're not able to come in, Nick? I mean,
Right.
can they come in, before the meeting, or whatever, on their own time?
Well, if that's acceptable to both members, then yes, I would like to have them come in at an off time, approve the minutes or approve the bills, and then we go from there.
And that's assuming that we're still doing this, in a week or two, or, whenever our next meeting is, so.
that's right. And we're doing this because we just, today, we all had our staff members get tested and we just didn't want to unnecessarily expose anyone in case any of us.
Exactly right.
So this just came up, this was a last minute thing. So I expect by December 7th, which is actually 3 weeks from now, that we'll have much more time to prepare for getting these bills approved. And then,
Well, in that situation, I would prefer to have the two new members of council, which would be Councilman Daika and Councilman Rondell, come in and approve the bills, at an off time when we can, come in the back door and, these are trying times. Things are different, things are weird. So we're gonna do things a little differently, but we're gonna do them right.
I'm happy to do that. Just let me know. I mean, that's fine. I'm
Yeah,
comfortable
thank you.
doing that.
Yeah, and I'll work with Nancy. I think it's good for the two of us to be there together at opposite ends of the council table.
That's fine.
Because when I was involved in this before, there was often discussion between people that were reviewing. So just a thought.
Yeah, and I'm happy to do that, Al, when we get to the point where we know what we're doing next time. That we'll schedule whatever time works to make that happen. Great.
Yes, and I will be happy to get you both in there and go through the process and look through the bills and be content with what we're doing as a city as a whole. I will keep you posted.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay.
And I just got one question, and maybe I missed it. Is the city online with doing, online bills, payments, and is the credit card thing ready? I might have missed that if it was.
no, but Nick, you want to explain how close we are?
Yes, Victor, I'll take that. As of right now, we've been working on this most of the summer and spring. And it's a lot bigger, process than what we thought it would be to bring it online for everybody. We're gonna start out December 1st, give or take, for doing taxes. Pay taxes online, credit card, and then we're gonna migrate into utility bills here in the not too distant future. So yes, we're working in that direction. We've been working in that direction for several years. I think it's time for us to get in this century. But there's a lot more behind the scenes that needs to happen before we get there. But we are getting close.
Okay, I just remember with the COVID thing, and, you know, things got delayed and stuff like that, and then summer's already passed us by, so, I was just curious where things are at, so thank you.
No, we're getting there, John. It's just, you know, this has been a goofy year and trying to change old dogs, new tricks. You know, it's been a long, drawn out process to try to get everything lined up and software and this and that, the other thing, but we are getting there, and that's our hope by the first of the year that everything will be online.
Perfect, so, no, thank you.
Anything else for new and old business? Perfect.
I just want to thank, or congratulate, you on, re-election, and Al and, Nancy for coming on board, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Here, here.
All right, Mr. Raymer, can we have our verbiage for some closed session?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we would need a council person, or the mayor, to move, that the council meet in closed session under section 8D of the Michigan Open Meetings Act to consider the purchase of lease of real property up to the time an option to purchase or lease that real property is obtained.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
That motion, please.
Roll call.
Bulgara,
Yes.
Helps,
Yes.
Rondell,
Yes.
Daika,
Yes.
and Leo.
Yes.
Motion carries, closed session.
Okay, I would like everyone who is not a not staff member or council member to please exit Zoom. We can go off YouTube. Nick, if you want to stay on the, never mind.